people love to say, oh, he's apologized for the blackface. Has he? Like, all of the things it is that Ethan has apparently apologized for are supposed to be sourceable, yet me, as a content creator who literally makes a lot of Ethan Klein content, can't source a lot of the apologies it is that he's made. So if he's made apologies, where are they? I would like somebody who is a fan of Ethan Klein and the H3 community to spend hours and hours of times of documenting every single one of Ethan Klein's apologies for the horrible, horrendous things it is that he has done.
A lot of times when they say things like, oh, he's apologized for his slurs, where are those apologies?
That's your job!
You know who was critiquing the slur usage? Commentary YouTubers like me in 2020, like 5 years ago.
I had a run-in with a random 1,000-follower call-out account who accused me of having problems with black people out of literally nowhere with no supporting evidence. Ethan Klein shows up to post an image as if to prove me taking a picture of a Keemstar means I have a problem with black people. I'll patiently await my apology.
I have created a list of my own that should hopefully shed some light on some of the bullshit shit that Ethan has done.
Made fun of Indian people and called them janitors and goofy, made fun of black people, done blackface on multiple occasions, stated that 6-foot black men were scarier than 6-foot white men, called a black man Blackzilla, made insensitive tweets about Ebola, pretended to be from Zimbabwe, pretended to be from Ghana, pretended to be from Pakistan, created blackface and whiteface content with a double entendre meaning to them, minimizing racism and making fun of various communities.
And again, this list is barely scratching the surface of all of the stuff it is that Ethan has done since starting his channel in 2011.
And now all of a sudden we have to relitigate those fucking slurs he apologized for a fucking decade ago.
So I'm inclined to believe that these don't exist, because if they did, why don't you just show us?
Don't ask me where they are. That's your job!
Why on earth can the same people who support you not find these instances for the rest of the internet to use?
I just think she's extremely confident in saying that Ethan Klein has not apologized. Like, that is a crazy claim to make, but I think she's dumb enough to try to make it. I'm sure they'll be able to produce some kind of clip.
She wants you to believe that just because you are offended by a joke or that you don't find the joke funny, that it's racist, and it's not.
All it takes is one issue that you care about that these people disagree with, then you're crazy, then you're unhinged, then you're freaking out, then your pain is no longer justified, then the things that happen to you aren't really happening, they're all in your head. There's a reason why things are called casual racism. It's because the person doing it probably doesn't even realize he's being racist. You should be able to acknowledge, hey, other people go through struggles too. Just because it doesn't affect me specifically, if I'm notified of my behavior or whatever, or something that I'm saying that would affect other people, that's different. That's worth knowing about instead of going through life pretending it's not happening.
And I stand before you as a hypocrite, as somebody who has not always been on the right side of racial issues. I've said the N-word on my podcast, and I thought I used it in a context that made it okay. I look back on those clips with just embarrassment and shame. But sometimes a hypocrite is just a man in the process of changing, and I don't think that it's ever too late to change for the better.
Now, we can all admit that Ethan Klein has changed a lot over the years. Once the edgelord of commentary, he has since moved on to a more left-leaning demographic. He was once the person that the commentary bros, a subgenre of YouTube commentary who lean more into the less politically correct kind of content. He was once the king of their community. But then sometime around 2019/2020, once he became more affiliated with Trisha Paytas and her audience, who as we know is more women focused and LGBTQIA+ focused, it seems to me at least that Ethan saw the dollar signs of the success that the Frenemies podcast was garnering at that time, and swiftly changed his behavior to reflect this new demographic, this new left-leaning demographic. People who were aware of Trisha Paytas' past of horrendous bigotry, but were somewhat forgiving towards Trisha Paytas due to her impact on the social media zeitgeist. Now, during this time where Ethan was transitioning his audience, he lost a lot of subscribers, but he also gained a substantial amount more. And his old, more edgier audience audience was somewhat blindsided by this swift transition, leading to Ethan Klein making a lot of enemies within that side of the commentary community, the quote-unquote commentary bros.
I think for a lot of people who don't necessarily follow us all the time, seeing us like just as a hard transition go from those edited videos to this podcast that is so unedited, it's just 2 hours of us saying anything. I think for them, it's a hard transition to see this versus this. And I think that's a lot of times where those kind of videos come from. Like Muda's video.
Now, when I speak of the commentary bros, I'm speaking of people like Leafy is Green, Keemstar, Nicholas DeOrio, John Swan, Tom Dark, Bo Blacks, Tipster. A group of people who I would consider extremely nostalgic about the year of 2016 commentary. And one of the most vocal people that I would consider when it comes to Ethan Klein's hypocrisy and his swift change of demographic and even tolerance and ideologies, as well as Ethan Klein's apparent sensitivity to socio-political issues, or anything that could be considered politically correct, was Nicholas DeOrio. Now, in the year 2020, Nicholas DeOrio had made videos about Ethan Klein, had been extremely vocal and public about his disdain for Ethan Klein, and the hypocrisy it is that Ethan Klein displayed having a more holier-than-thou presentation on current topics, despite being one of the originators, many people would say, of edgelord commentary.
Ethan found Bo Black's racist parody song that he made approximately 4 years ago, one in which Bo Blacks has already publicly addressed and apologized for, and Ethan tweeted it out to his entire audience. He then scoured the internet looking for screenshots to further build his narrative that he was trying to shape, and he eventually landed on a super old tweet Bo Blacks made about minorities in the airport. Like Ethan has any fucking room to talk on this issue at all.
And a clip came out of H3H3 judging people based on their skin color. Ultra Joe responded by saying, maybe you lost subscribers because of this video. Oh no! What is the video? Roll it.
Because I was like, they're like huge black dudes and they're all strapped. They were all black. There was like 10. I'm just saying, every single one of them was black.
Okay. I don't even pay attention to color or anything.
If there's 8 dudes on security and they're all black, I think that's worth noting.
I just noticed their suit. They were all wearing suits.
They were all wearing suits, yeah. No, they were super professional.
That was nice.
And, I mean, they were all like 6'5", black dudes. Yeah, that's terrifying. Is a 6'5" black dude scare you more than a 6'5" white dude?
No. Is it supposed to?
I was almost trying to admit how I racially profile, like how I feel like people do that. Obviously, that came off bad. I mean, yeah, it's bad. But I think I was just trying to own to the fact that I do racially profile, just because. But yeah, I totally agree that it was a fucking stupid, ignorant thing to say.
I don't even think the reaction to the racist parody song that Bo Blacks made was the worst part, though. He actually tried to use this situation to discredit Bo Blacks' content. He sent a message to Bo Blacks in DMs and told him that he doesn't give a shit and he just wants to build a narrative and get views, which is some top-tier projecting, I'd say. So suddenly the videos that H3H3 said were instrumental to the creation of the Content Nuke series and extremely helpful are now just manipulated narratives designed to get the most clicks and not archive the truth.
However, if you were to search Nicholas DeOrio today and have a look at his social media as well as his YouTube channel, you would see Nicholas DeOrio being possibly one of the most favorable Ethan Klein defenders, overlooking Ethan Klein's past and his hypocrisy in favor of their combined mutual disdain for many of the other people it is that Ethan Klein has a problem with. The two main people being Hassan Piker and iDubbbz. Nicholas DeOrio, a guy who I once admired as being one of the better video essayists of the commentary bro community, has now become the equivalent I would consider to a Ethan Klein adjacent Amberlynn Reid channel or a foodie beauty channel, where the majority of their content is focused on what this person does next. And let's be real, this has been an extremely lucrative endeavor for Nicholas DeOrio, and a genre that he is clearly well built for and successful at. And to be clear, from the jump, my issue with Nicholas DeOrio's content has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that he supports Ethan Klein, but more so the fact that he hasn't displayed that same amount of integrity that I perceived he had. that he had displayed extremely well in his video essay days, in favor of fast, frequent content that has now become what I would consider the waiting room for Ethan Klein's live streams with the H3 podcast. Now, when I made my Ethan Klein video last week, I did not really foresee anybody else reacting to my content. I mean, let's be real, I'm not the most popular commentator out there. And out of all of the Ethan Klein videos it is that I've made in the past, I would consider this one possibly my least popular one. However, when I saw that DeOrio was reviewing my content in his live stream, I was extremely interested in seeing what his opinion is, as a former fan. However, what I found was the exact same echo chamber that I had seen that Ethan Klein and his own audience had shared. That I'm simply not a very well-researched T channel who hates Ethan Klein and refuses to give up on the past. However, when it came to the crux of my video, where I spoke about disparagement humor and how blackface can be akin to some forms of anti-Semitism, the nuance where I'm trying to find mutual ground where everybody can understand each other's feelings towards the situation, DeOrio completely skipped that section of the video.
Okay, go to 57. That's the end of the video. Very funny. That was very funny, Ryan. I appreciate you, Ryan. That was very funny. I really appreciate you. All right, we're going to dive here.
And this is something it is that I find with many people who are critical of my content, that actually viewing my content in its entirety seems like a huge and tall order. The jokes are about people of color. Now, one of the...
Okay. I can't anymore. I can't. She just wants to be upset. That's all it is. She just wants to be upset. She wants you to be upset over jokes. She wants you to believe that just because you are offended by a joke or that you don't find the joke funny, that it's racist, and it's not. There's almost 18 minutes left in this video. I'm not finishing it. I can't. I'm done. I'm so done with this bullshit, man. It's these types of people, it's these types of videos, this type of rhetoric, this type of mindset, this freaking mind virus here that makes people go to the opposition. Because we want, as somebody like myself who believes that, yes, trans people have a right to exist, they should be able to do whatever they want, they should be able to, or not do whatever they want, let me rephrase that. They should not have to go through life being attacked or gone after because they're trans or anything. But when I see shit like this, or race, or like freaking the desire to be a victim like this, it makes me just hate these types of people. It makes me hate this side.
This also happened with the previous Ethan Klein video it is that I made, Ethan Klein, You Can't Litigate Public Opinion, where many people who were critical of this video didn't look at the crux of the video. Now, it could potentially be that my content is just not entertaining for that particular demographic, which is fair. My content is not everybody's cup of tea. But for me personally, I like to watch somebody's video in its entirety before formulating a full opinion. Because how can I formulate my opinion without hearing somebody out fully? So I sat down and I listened to DeOrio's video in full. And based on this particular video, is Ethan Klein racist? In brackets, Paige Christie thinks he is. And many of the numerous clipped VODs it is that he presents on his channel, that DeOrio literally just says the same things it is that Ethan says. He's riding with Ethan 100%. I mean, if DeOrio went down even further, I believe he would be gargling on them balls. And to me, it seems like DeOrio's opinion is Ethan Klein isn't racist because racism has to be extremely pointed and directed in order for the recipient to actually be able to qualify that feeling as racism. He complains about the anti-Semitism it is that Ethan has received with the passion of a poet. But the moment that somebody mentions anti-blackness, all of a sudden he becomes illiterate. And when it came to much of Nick's hypocrisy, he flips between the juxtaposition of equality for all, but not like that. Presenting the kind of nuance of a man who pushes somebody down the stairs and then stands at the bottom saying, I can't believe that gravity did this. But the main point of the video it is that I made last week in regards to Ethan Klein and his historic racism was that Ethan Klein said that he has never and would never do blackface, statements of which I believe to be factually incorrect.
I have never done blackface in my life. First of all, I never did it. So I wouldn't do it now, and I didn't because I never did it. I never did it.
Because you don't have to imitate blackface in order for it to be blackface, just that racialized prejudice has to be the joke. And the second point is that Ethan Klein has stated on numerous different occasions that he has already apologized for his past.
Where are the apologies? Stop lying! That's your job!
However, when anybody asks him to show examples of these instances of him apologizing, or even showing any level of atonement, that nobody can find any references.
He's apologized for his slurs. Where are those apologies?
To which Nick stated that he believes that people will be able to provide the references it is that I'm lacking due to my lack of research. But did they? Well, shortly after Nick's live stream, the H3 foot soldiers decided to do a call to action to get everybody in the community to come together to provide me with the receipts it is that I need. But before we take a look into the receipts it is that the H3 fandom were able to provide us, let's go through some of the most pertinent points I think that were involved in Nick DeOrio's VOD live stream, because I am more than willing to tackle my responses head on.
If you think that Ethan is racist for the blackface thing that he did 10 years ago, and you can't justify that with any action towards a black person, especially in the last 5 years, or any comment or any quote that even goes with it, I mean, I don't think that you really think that he's actually racist, right?
So the first thing it is that Nicholas DeOrio states is that you can't qualify Ethan Klein as racist unless you can find something within the past 5 years of him being directly racist towards a black person. Well, that would be an extremely tall feat considering Ethan Klein does not have any black people around him. The closest that Ethan Klein has even came to having a black person on his team is one of his moderators who allegedly works for him, but it is a remote position. But Ethan Klein himself has stated that he's never been in close encounters with black people.
I don't think I've ever known a black person.
And a very small minority of the H3 podcast guests have even been black.
I'm sorry, if you say a slur or do something that could be perceived as racist and apologize for like multiple times over the last decade, and then somebody comes up and spits on you and calls you a Jew, because that's, I guess, like, obviously paraphrasing, that hasn't actually happened to him, like the spitting on it, that's kind of like the amalgamation, I imagine what it would feel like. Are you not allowed to be mad about that? Or in a pure hypothetical, let's say you called someone the N-word 10 years ago, have atoned for it, apologized several times, and moved on from the situation. Let's make it even worse than anything he's ever done. And then somebody comes up to you and commits a hate crime to you. Can you not complain about that, I guess? 10 years later?
Whenever Nicholas DeOrio presents the Ethan Klein narrative that he has a right to be upset about the anti-Semitism it is that he is facing, despite his historic past towards other demographics, it's always from the position that he has apologized a billion times. I'm about to show you a little bit later that this is actually not the case. But this is something I see the H3 community do frequently, is present this narrative that he's atoned, that he's said that he's sorry, that he's apologized on numerous occasions. Therefore, how dare black people or people of color be upset at the flagrant hypocrisy of him wanting a certain level of sensitivity towards his demographic whilst not in turn giving that same level of sensitivity towards others. See, the difference with me is that I'm not sitting here saying that Ethan doesn't have a right to be upset. Like I said in my video, if you'd have cared to actually watch the fucking thing, that is not my demographic to speak for, and I'm not going to sit here and overspeak Ethan Klein on his experiences. Ethan and his family are claiming to be victims of racial attacks purely based on the fact that they themselves are Jewish. Now, I'm not here to question or interrogate that claim. That is not my demographic to speak for. I'm simply just saying that this is hypocritical. And maybe some self-reflection and thinking about how other people may feel, particularly after your own personal experiences, should make you want to become a little bit more forthcoming with your own apologies towards other communities it is that you may have hurt. It would be the equivalent of me having half of my YouTube career here calling people who are gay the F slur, not apologizing for that, but acknowledging that the thing was done, that I actually said those things, and then in the face of any direct or indirect racism it is that I might face, Me sitting here on my platform and saying the racism it is that I've experienced deeply impacts me and other people like me, I personally would say that it would be fair for the people that I called the F slur to tell me that it's hypocritical that I want sensitivity when I don't give it. This to me is a completely simple concept, but for some reason, when it comes to certain minority demographics, we have to like jump through various different hoops to prove what constitutes as intolerance or prejudice, despite how accepting I have been towards Ethan Klein and his feelings. Because again, I am not Jewish, therefore I will never be able to speak for those people. In the next section, Nicholas DeOrio basically states that he's had issues with Ethan Klein in the past and his hypocrisy, and he's called him out for it. And that at the time that he called Ethan out, it was fresh and it was new. And that it would make more sense for him to say something of this nature when calling out Ethan Klein's hypocrisy rather than other people, which I am assuming he means me.
But they didn't start purity testing and complaining about his slur usage. You know who was critiquing the slur usage? You know who was critiquing? Commentary YouTubers like me. In 2020, like 5 years ago, it was a little bit more justified. We're complaining about that and then his new takes and it being kind of hypocritical because it was still fresh and he was just doing the podcast and it was new, right? But now, he's fighting with Hassan Piker, okay? He's fighting with Paige Christie's friend or something. And now all of a sudden we have to relitigate those fucking slurs he apologized for a fucking decade ago.
Alluding to the notion that I didn't care at the time and that I'm being hypocritical. Whereas anybody who knows my channel knows that I have been on Ethan's neck about this for years. So in the time it took you back in 2020 to have your stance and change it, I've maintained the exact same position.
I had a run-in with a random 1,000-follower call-out account who accused me of having problems with black people out of literally nowhere with no supporting evidence. Ethan Klein shows up to post an image as if to prove me taking a picture of a Keemstar means I have a problem with black people. I'll patiently await my apology.
I was calling him out publicly online in 2017. I was making videos about him in 2020, 2021, and 2022, 2023, 2024. I have been consistent in making the same position that Ethan Klein has never apologized for his previous actions. My opinion has been consistent. So when you bring up, oh, is she going to listen to this in a vacuum and not bring up the Israel and Palestine discussion?
So I see we'll be sidestepping all the Israel-Palestine stuff and talking about it in a vacuum.
For me personally, this isn't a vacuum because I have been speaking about this one particular point long before the Palestinian genocide became widely publicized and amplified and popularized since the October Hamas attack. Nicholas DeOrio then goes on to have a conversation about what casual racism is and how it's so detrimental and how we should show compassion and understanding for other people's feelings who may not be a part of the demographic it is that you're a part of.
I think that most people think more negatively of things that directly affect them, and less about things that affect other people. I think that's human nature. I think it's not good. I think it's something that you should work on if you're doing it. There's a reason why things are called casual racism. It's because the person doing it probably doesn't even realize he's being racist. I think that most people are probably more worried about them, their friend, their family, their people, if they're really in tune to it that way. I don't think of it like that, but I understand why others might, right? They're probably thinking of those people first. What do you mean? Not good. People who look out for their own first is the right thing. That's survival, Nick. Yes, but using that to excuse casual misunderstandings or casual even racism or blind prejudice, right? You should be able to acknowledge, hey, other people go through struggles too. Some people never make it that far, right? Like, just because it doesn't affect me specifically, if I'm notified of my behavior or whatever, or something that I'm saying that would affect other people, that's different, right? Like, that's worth knowing about instead of going through life pretending it's not happening.
Like, am I losing my mind? But is that not the exact point it is that I was trying to make? But for some reason, this is a completely understandable concept when it comes to anti-Semitism, but when it comes to anti-blackness, no, it's not the same. I don't hear you. Then, when I make the analogy about Ethan Klein standing in a puddle complaining why other people are wet, Nick then goes on to make the analogy that the puddle is dry because it's been 10 years. Ethan Klein lecturing somebody else about racism feels like a man who is standing in a puddle arguing that everybody should stay dry.
Okay, but imagine, right, that puddle, okay, because of the climate change Taylor Lorenz loves so much, has now dried completely and he's just still standing there. It's been fucking 10 years, you know? All the water has dispersed. The puddle is gone. There have been multiple puddles in between of different controversy, but the puddle that he was standing in is no longer there.
Well, anti-blackness and racism did not stop 10 years ago. And I'm pretty sure that 10 years from now, anti-Semitism won't either. So in 10 years' time, do we get to sit there and position ourselves to tell Ethan Klein to just get the fuck over it? But again, we're talking about somebody who did not watch the content it is that they are reviewing. They're not only just live streamed about it, edited it, and put it onto their channel. And you know what's incredibly funny to me? Is that one of the main things it is that Nick DeOrio and his orbiters like to talk about, especially when it comes to me, is to bring up a live stream in which I misspoke and did not catch that in the edit and ended up recalling Ethan Klein's controversy completely incorrect, to which at no point have I ever disputed. So then I could be positioned as an unreliable resource, which is fair. And it's actually due to that constructive criticism that it made me really want to try and rework that platform. Because I can hear the things that people tell me, even if it's from people who I don't believe are in good faith, and reflect on the criticism it is that I've received. Ethan Klein decided to do a content nuke, which is his version of the aforementioned content cop, on his dear friend iDubbbz, and decided to copyright the video before it went live, as in an official
Dude, that's crazy that he filed a copyright takedown on a video that hadn't come out yet.
copyright. Obviously, when you release original material, you have the IP and you are the copyright owner. However, if you would like to litigate somebody, you do have to register that copyright.
You don't have to do that, to be clear. That's for damages. That's specifically for damages. You can still litigate it, but you wouldn't be able to do it the same way.
Better, shall I say. You don't have to. But it's better for your case if you have the copyright registered.
Okay, she said that. Sorry.
I will wholeheartedly say that my summary of events was lazy. But I would also go as far as to say that you stating the exact same points it is that I make in my own video that you didn't care to watch and review appropriately is also lazy. Nicholas DeOrio then goes on to present me as some kind of Hassan fan. That the purity testing began and nobody cared until he had a fallout with Hassan Piker. But here I was back in 2021 in a video presenting this exact point. It's the flagrant hypocrisy of not just Ethan, but the H3H3 fanbase that choose to ignore Ethan's egregious past whilst creating and compiling lists of every little thing it is that Trisha Paytas has ever done. When there are just as many for Ethan, and neither of them have apologized for most issues. In fact, there are literally more Trisha Paytas direct apologies to be found on YouTube, such as their apology to Jaclyn Hill, their apology to Courtney Stodden, their apology to the community over their political comments, their apology to Philip DeFranco, their apology to Dixie or Charlie, I don't know these girls, D'Amelio. In fact, when you search Ethan Klein apology or H3H3 apology or any variation of that terminology, the only apology video you come across is a video titled, "I'm sorry that you are offended," where he speaks about the trans community who were offended by some of his tweets, and he basically tells them to go and themselves and makes fun of their efforts to educate him on his contribution to transphobia.
So this person wrote H3H3 is transphobic 8 times in response to my tweet, and it has 300 retweets and 1,000 likes.
This is the joke police. Put your hands in the air and log out of Twitter.
So what I wrote was, my dick just touched the inside of the toilet bowl. There's no other solution. I'm cutting my dick off. Apparently the part that was really offensive that I didn't realize was that underneath I said, my name is Ellen. I'm changing my name from Ethan to Ellen, and thereby starting my life as a female because my dick touched the inside of the toilet bowl. Now I'm just going to say this for the first time, and I'll keep repeating it, but
Just because you were offended by a joke doesn't mean that the joke was inherently offensive.
And this is the problem when we position these kind of things as sides. Like there's the H3 snark side versus H3. Or on Hassan Piker's side of the internet, it's the H3 fan base, the foot soldiers versus the Hassan Piker fans. When I have openly and publicly acknowledged in a video that you have reviewed that I dislike both Ethan Klein and Hassan Piker. To which you called me based. He has never reckoned for, that he has never said anything about, that he has never apologized for, that he has never atoned for. But we should look at him as a victim right now. Fuck your victimhood, bitch. Fuck it. fuck your victimhood. I don't give a fuck.
Dude, she actually is peak hater. I'm becoming a fan.
The whole thing just reads to me as willingly misinterpreting literally anything that comes out of my mouth in order to just go through and lick Ethan Klein's cornhole. The mere notion that I could maintain these exact same feelings for several years is completely washed away because of course it must be that she supports her side. I don't. Now, because I'm a fair commentator, unlike some, I also do believe that Nicholas DeOrio raised a really good point. In my video, I stated that Ethan Klein's debate style, especially when it pertained to Cruel World Happy Mind, felt as if she was asked to answer for everything. To which Nicholas DeOrio stated that she conceded to a lot of her points, therefore it was very difficult to come at it from any other position. That is not something that I really thought about, and I respect that opinion. It felt to me like she was asked to answer for her behavior rather than actually have...
Yeah, when you get on there and concede all your arguments, then the next logical question is like, well, what are you doing to stop that from happening in the future? She just kept coming on saying, I'm going to do better, I'm going to do better, I'm going to do better. So yeah, that's the only way the conversation can go if somebody's not going to defend their argument.
In the next section, I speak about the fact that I have been consistent in my opinions to do with Ethan Klein and that I've been on his neck. To which Nicholas DeOrio then goes on to say they don't train people to do stuff like that, making what appears to me to be an obvious police brutality joke. Before then stating that he's not going to go there with me because he once laughed at a George Floyd meme that was created online and that I was upset with him over it. All of these things are true. I have no notes. Now, if you're familiar with my previous Ethan Klein videos, I will leave a playlist somewhere at the top of the screen. You guys will be familiar with the fact that I have been on Ethan's neck when it comes to...
They don't train people to do that.
You guys will be familiar with the fact that I have been on Ethan's neck when it comes to the outward racism it is that he has displayed, continues to signal towards, lies about and removes evidence of, as well as holding his...
Don't say it. Listen, I've already had a controversy with Paige because someone, I shit you not, someone drew fan art of me kneeling on Bo Black's neck, and I laughed when I saw it awkwardly. And I think that we told them to never do that again. I forgot what the clip was. I might be making it too nice towards me. I don't remember. But Paige was going after us because someone drew fan art of that.
It's accountable for the apology.
I don't need another controversy like that. I'm not making the fucking comment.
Then we come to the main point, and the whole reason it is that I even made this video. Nicholas DeOrio reviews a section of my video where I state that Ethan Klein has never atoned for or apologized for his previous behavior, and I've searched high and low for this. He believes that this is a wild claim and that there must be some kind of resource out there and that I simply am not looking hard enough.
It just sounds insane that you're arguing that I can't find any clip where he's denounced some of his racist acts or whatever, or clips that he said.
For some reason, within this orbit, the burden of proof when it comes to apologies or atonement for certain behavior is on the person who is supposed to receive the apology.
She has no problem digging up clips from 10 years ago because they're already reposted on snark subreddits and all over Twitter and all over social media. But when it involves having to get a clip that's not being widely surfaced by all the groups that actually just so happen to hate Ethan Klein, then all of a sudden it's too much work. I'm sorry. Oh no, I can't do this. I'm a YouTuber. What do you expect me to do? Research? No!
Like, for all intents and purposes, I believe that Black people who are seeking this information shouldn't be told to go and find it yourself. And as somebody who has been consistently asking this question for several years, as I have displayed, for me still to never get that answer is kind of fucking insane. But Nicholas DeOrio believes that somebody out there will give me those receipts. And boy, did the H3 fan universe try. And fail. Considering Ethan Klein fans allegedly have created this snark-brained website to go through and dispel any actions of perceived racism that could possibly be attributed to Ethan Klein or Healer, if they are willing to make an entire website surrounding that, why on earth can the same people who support you not find these instances for the rest of the internet to use? And honestly, again, I believe it's because it didn't happen. And if it didn't happen, then just deep that. Like, live with it. It is what it is. But then don't pretend that you did.
I just think she's extremely confident in saying
what's the name of the
Ethan Klein
guy
has not apologized in 10
Nick
years.
DeOrio. Mr. Oreo.
It's actually fucking insane.
Most influence.
That's actually, like, that is a crazy claim to make. But I think she's dumb enough to try to make it. I'm sure they'll be able to produce some kind of clip.
So 7 days ago on the H3 subreddit, a fan of the H3 podcast asked everyone to provide the receipts so that Paige could shut her bitch ass up, or something to that effect. The post reads as follows. Foot soldiers, assemble. Petty Paige can't seem to find any clip of Ethan apologizing / atoning for his past mistakes and behavior. Drop those timestamp links. And the immediate response was, no point, she knows, she's just being disingenuous. Why even bother to correct those people when the goalposts will immediately shift, no matter what information they're provided with, or what Ethan does to disprove them? Then they go into a bunch of different stuff to do with the Palestinian genocide, and again, I'm not going into that topic because I literally am laser focused on the same thing it is that I've been laser focused on for years. Let's just ignore her and Cruel World Happy Mind. They are honestly so dumb, just trying to pile on. Looking for views, no point in giving her attention. Ask Rich what he thinks of her. Giggle face. Oh, she's nasty. I'd love a tea episode about their drama. Oh, sweetheart, if you want an episode about that drama, it is very fucking simple. Rich Lux made a video several years back when Nikocado Avocado was taking his break to lose weight, where he alluded to Nikocado Avocado being dead with a photograph of a car completely unrelated to Nikocado Avocado. Rich Lux was publicly called out for that being extremely distasteful, and I agreed with that sentiment. Rich Lux then got upset with me because I did not show him the loyalty he believed that he deserved, and that I should have spoken to him first before making my public stance known. Due to that, he blocked me on all social medias and we did not speak again up until very recently. It's not much of a story, but you are free to ask Rich Lux about it if you should so please. Show me timestamps of Trisha apologizing or labeling herself as a pedophile and messaging minors that she wanted to fuck them, or pretending that she is trans, or beating Jason and Moses, or show me the Hassan apologizing for telling his fans to commit suicide. She doesn't actually give a fuck about receipts. None of these people have anything to do with what the current discussion is. But in terms of Trisha Paytas, I have actually detailed and listed all of the numerous different things it is that she has done wrong in the past, and stated that she too needs to atone for them. I will play that for you now.
This list was literally sourced from the Trishy Land Reddit, which is a subreddit that is literally dedicated to disliking Trisha. And the length of this list should give you a good grasp as to how long Trisha has been doing messed up shit. So let's read through it.
Role-playing the essay and murder of a child, role-playing the mental illness of a vulnerable celebrity on the verge of their death, role-playing and mocking the survivor of childhood SA, cosplaying a slave and saying that they did it because it was cute, releasing a song called Jungle Fever that compares black men to monkeys, identifying as black, identifying as Jewish whilst also preaching Christ, identifying as trans, identifying as a mental illness that they do not have for attention, examples DID and schizophrenia, vilifying immigrants and communities of colour in support of Trump's election in 2016, blackfishing and dressing up as different races, like the experiences of people of colour are reducible to costumes on TikTok, saying the N-word, saying being gay is a choice and comparing gay marriage to the marriage of animals, accusing a dead man of having been arrested for CP when he was not, shooting an OF with their biological mother and biological sister, cosplaying the Powerpuff Girls for adult content when the Powerpuff Girls are not only children's characters but are fictional sisters, shooting OF content with 2 alleged abusers and making them money, sexually and physically abusing Jason and Moses, physically restraining them both from leaving, discrediting and victim blaming Moses' survivors, and bullying children on the internet such as Charlie D'Amelio and Gabby Hanna's underage sister.
The Trishy Land subreddit is a subreddit that for the most part despises Trisha Paytas. But I thought it was important to show that we aren't negating that Trisha has done some awful shit. Because honestly, reading it out loud makes you realize how extensive this list truly is. However, I would argue that with Trisha making their debut online in 2006 and creating content for literally 15 years as the internet's biggest troll, that this list probably doesn't even scratch the surface of all of the apparent disrespectful shit that Trisha Paytas has done.
So the argument that Paige doesn't hold the same energy for other people as she does for Ethan Klein is completely bullshit. For a community who desires people to do the bare minimum research, none of them do. Then we get the only receipts that it is that the H3 community have ever seemed to be able to come up with, that they believe is Ethan Klein, again, which was my request, apologizing and atoning for his previous behavior. And just to be clear, so that we know what atonement means, it means making amends. The first video is a video from Ethan Klein from the 6th of June 2020 at the height of the Black Lives Matter protests, where he speaks about all of the horrible things that have been taking place in the world and his ignorance towards that, before later going on to say that he's a hypocrite who's changing. This apparently is an apology to the H3 community. This apparently is atonement.
And I stand before you as a hypocrite, as somebody who has not always been on the right side of racial issues. I've said the N-word on my podcast, and I thought I used it in a context that made it okay. I look back on those clips with just embarrassment and shame. But sometimes a hypocrite is just a man in the process of changing.
I hate to break it to you guys, this is not an apology, nor is it an atonement. And the crazy thing about this is that in 2020, when he had the opportunity to speak about all of this, that would have been the perfect time to apologize to the Black community specifically. Yet he did not take that opportunity and he did not engage in it. All he said is that he did the things, and that being a hypocrite is just a person who's learning. Wow, so profound. The next one is from a video in May 2020 where Ethan Klein speaks about the Gokunaru video, the infamous Gokunaru video that was made about Ethan Klein in an episode titled The Death of H3H3 by Gokunaru. Podcast episode 192. In this episode, Ethan Klein explains the situation and says that he totally owns that.
Okay, on this point, I'll totally own that this was a really bad take and a huge mistake. You know, in my mind, I was rationalizing. Obviously, I knew that I had said the N-word when iDubbbz was on the show. The context of that, of course, was that we were having iDubbbz famously would say the N or F-er. And I was like, how do you get away with saying that, you know? And then I started saying it, and then it turned into what I thought was a joke, where I was saying that. But in my mind, I was like, well, we're having a conversation about this word, and I wasn't using it as a pejorative insult, right? That being said, obviously that's a nuanced point, and there's plenty of people who think, well, it doesn't matter how you use it, you shouldn't use it anyway. And
honestly, even ourselves have changed since. I don't think today you would say it.
No, I cringe so hard when I see that clip of me saying that and thinking that it's okay. No, I wouldn't say that now, and I find it horribly embarrassing, and I was definitely hypocritical in this moment. There's no question about it. Like, I've totally owned that.
Meaning that he acknowledges that he did the thing. This is not an apology. This is not atonement. I don't understand why these are the receipts that you are bringing when they show absolutely nothing. If I punched a baby in the throat and people are like, you should probably apologize to the baby, and I say, yeah, I own that I did that. This fucking insanity. Oh my God, I feel like I'm speaking to literal fucking children. This is insanity. The third receipt it is that they bring is from the Steve O's Wild Ride podcast. This was a year ago on the 11th of July 2024, to which Ethan Klein again explains the situation, one of a lot of other situations, but the main situation that people have contention with, doesn't actually apologize for it, and basically states that he's changed his positions and things that he saw as trivial may not be trivial to other people. Again, this is not an apology and this is not atonement. This is just acknowledging that you did the thing.
Because a lot of the stuff I did was not good, was horrible. You know, the people are mad at me.
Like a lot of stuff, what, just being critical and saying bad things about it?
No, just saying like racial slurs and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, just a little like racial slurs. And on the podcast, which is funny at the time, you know iDubbbz, right?
iDubbbz,
I don't know what
oh, really?
Nah.
Can you look it up?
Well, anyway, he was on. He was back in the day. There was like edgy YouTube when our channel was popular.
This guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he had this phrase, which was the N-word and the F-word, like slurs for gay people and black people combined. And I had him on the show, and I was like, "How can you say this? This is crazy." And I said the words instead of being like N-word, F-word.
Yeah. Okay.
And so that clip, I was like, I love saying N-word, F-word. And that's one of the clips that's haunted me forever, because people go, you know, but I obviously fucked myself by doing that, and I shouldn't have done that. And I think a lot of people too, like if there's some black folks or gay folks in the audience, they might look at that and be like, you know, he's too comfortable doing that. Makes me uncomfortable, right? And so they're not wrong. Actually, they're not wrong.
I mean, that sounds like an identical situation to what Joe Rogan found himself in with that. There was like a whole montage of him.
Oh, I remember that. I remember that. And it was all super old, right?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
And so, but for me, I like to engage with it and be like, that was fucked up,
Right.
There's really no excuse. And I think I understand better how like things that I see as completely trivial and silly can actually affect other people. Like that I don't have access to their identity, like a black person or a gay person,
right,
or whatever ethnicity or whatever. That like, because as a Jewish man, if I'm watching someone and they're just like, oh, you fucking Jew or whatever, like you're like, I'm just kidding. But to me that's like, I don't like that. I don't like hearing that.
The last one we have is from the H3 podcast on the 17th of August, 2022, where Ethan Klein, who was in a public conflict with another streamer by the name of Gideon. Now, as a quick TLDR, Gideon actually went over to one of the racist towns in America and made a video about it. Now, in this video, he did a lot of things a lot of people believe to be questionable, including doing a Nazi salute with KKK members. So in the next clip it is that you're about to see, Ethan Klein apologizes to Gideon and Gideon apologizes to him, meaning that this was a transactional apology. It is that the pair had given to each other for their behaviors that hurt them independently. I would not consider this an apology to their prospective communities. If Ethan Klein's direct apology to Gideon is what I was supposed to be waiting for, well, thank you so much, Ethan Klein, for giving me less than 2 seconds of your time.
Just so you know, like when I said the N-word, that was wrong, right? Like I apologize for that, and I've learned a lot, and that's something that I would never do now. And I hope you know that about the Nazi salute as well.
Yeah, and you know what? Even in the context of you're Jewish, so I apologize if that offended you.
It is absolutely batshit crazy to me that anybody within the H3 fandom, or even anybody who's just like an onlooker from various other communities, can take a look at this and say, yeah, these are apologies. These are the times where he apologized and atoned for his behavior. And don't get me wrong, he should be commended for the fact that he's not shying away from the fact that he has a racist past. But acknowledging that you did something is not an apology. And I don't know how else to make that. I don't know how to make it any more clear. So with that being said, what is my conclusion to this stupid shit? So as we discussed in the last chapter, H3 foot soldiers, when presented with the opportunity to provide clips, they themselves couldn't find it either. There is an entire website that has been made by people who are a part of the H3 podcast fandom called snartbrain.com, and even they don't have the receipts. But I imagine from this point, the goalpost is going to move. It's no longer going to be about whether he apologized or not. The burden is now going to be put on everybody else to just get over it. Or there could be a potential for the reasoning to be, well, it wasn't direct racism, because your racism has to be overt. Covert racism apparently doesn't exist. Unless you're calling a black person the N-word hard R to their face, that's not racism. And this is the hypocrisy of which I speak. It seems as if when it comes to other minority demographics who may be affected by Ethan Klein, the trans community, the gay community, the black community, religious groups, other ethnic minorities, we have to jump through hoops to be able to prove the validity of the racism, homophobia, transphobia, etc. it is that we have experienced. And like I said in my previous video, I don't care if Ethan Klein apologizes. Quite frankly, I'm not holding my breath. And honestly, so much time has passed, an opportunity that he could have actually said something, but he chose not to. We consistently get referred to the numerous different apologies it is that he's apparently made in the past. And again, when people were asked to bring these receipts, they couldn't find them. So when I say that I'm inclined to believe that they don't exist, it's not a wild, ludicrous claim.
Like, that is a crazy claim to make. I think she's dumb enough to try to make it. I'm sure they'll be able to produce some kind of clip.
Because if they did exist, I'm pretty sure the H3 community would have found a way to shut me up by now. But as it pertains to DeOrio, he echoes the same sentiment that Ethan Klein does. that when it comes to the term Zionist, that was being used as a way to be anti-Semitic. But if I sit down and say that police brutality jokes just aren't funny to me, then I'm oversensitive and I need to get over it. The fact of the matter is that racism is something that loads of different communities and ethnic minorities and cultural groups experience on a daily. So to me, there should be some mutual understanding, some group empathy. And I would hope that somebody who claims that they've experienced that same level of prejudice would be a little bit more empathetic and more understanding to other people's positions. And I don't think that's a wild take. And it's very clear to me that that is a take that you understand. In relation to Ethan Klein's opposition and how it is that they feel about the anti-Semitism it is that he believes he's experienced, Nick DeOrio put this concept out so incredibly clearly.
There's a reason why things are called casual racism. It's because the person doing it probably doesn't even realize he's being racist. You should be able to acknowledge, hey, other people go through struggles too. Some people never make it that far, right? Like, just because it doesn't affect me specifically, if I'm notified of my behavior or whatever, or something that I'm saying that would affect other people, that's different. Right? Like that's worth knowing about instead of going through life pretending it's not happening. All it takes is one issue that you care about that these people disagree with, then you're crazy, then you're unhinged, then you're freaking out, then your pain is no longer justified, then the things that happen to you aren't really happening, they're all in your head.
So my question is, why is it only other minority groups who don't get to feel? Anyway, that is about it from me. My voice is going, so I'm not even going to hold you. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. I just wanted to address this, just mainly because I'm so tired of like the blatant hypocrisy. It wouldn't even be so bad if it was just like a shit review of something, but it was just the flagrant hypocrisy. The hypocrisy in the fact that I'm being held to a standard that nobody else is being held to. The hypocrisy that the burden of proof is on the people who accuse, when even the accused's own community couldn't even find the proof. In the same way that Ethan Klein has become somewhat relentless when it comes to combating people who he believes have disrespected his community, I'm gonna do the same too. But it's just sad that the only person who's being told to shut up is me. Anyway, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up if you like it. If you don't, I don't give a shit anyway. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification with the bell. Until next time, it's been Paige.